A Thames River Anglers Association production.
Wow, what a beautiful day for a stream walk. I'm Paul Noble, and this is a follow-up to my almost free rod wrapping jig video. This instructional video is for those who want to build a more permanent and functional rod wrapping jig. While watching, keep in mind that the pause button is your friend. There's spots you want to take some notes or a screenshot maybe. Also, check out the description below for project links through the Thames River Anglers Association website. Okay, I'm going to finish my hike and then we'll start the project.
Building a cheap DIY rod wrapping jig. Here's some tools you'll need. I use power tools for wood, but a handsaw works well. You'll also need a hacksaw and/or Dremel type tool to cut metal. To measure and mark, you'll need a combination square, measuring tape, and a pencil. A bench vise and clamps are always handy. A drill and various bits. I also use Phillips and number 2 Robertson bits as well as the corresponding screwdrivers. A flat or half-round bastard file, a rat-tailed file, and various grits of sandpaper. Materials you'll need. I use scrap pieces of clear pine lumber, one of 1x2x36, 2 of 1x3x36, and 1 of 1x4x36 inches long. For adhesives, you'll need wood glue, 5-minute epoxy, and masking tape. Hardware for the jig itself will include about 24 drywall screws, number 6 by 1.5, 3 L hook screws, 1.5 inches, 2 deck screws, number 8 by 2.5 inches, a coarse thread bolt, 1.25 inches by 2.5 inches, 2 coarse thread nuts, 1/4 inch, 3 1/4 inch fender washers, 2 coarse thread carriage bolts, 1/4 by 2 inches, 2 wood screws, number 8 to number 12 with the shank, 2 coarse thread wing nuts, 1/4 inch, and lastly 1 small eye screw. Okay, let's start building the jig. Pre-cut the lumber into the following sizes. Note that, for example, a 1x2 is actually dressed out to a 3/4 by 1.5. Cut the 1x2 board into 3 7-inch pieces and 1 15-inch long piece. The 2 1x3 boards can be left at 36 inches long. Cut the 1x4 board into 2 4-inch long and 3 6-inch long pieces, leaving about a 10-inch piece. Take one of the 6-inch long 1x4 pieces and find the center of the top. Keep in mind the 1x4 is actually 3.5 inches wide, so the center should be 1 3/4 inches. From your center mark, measure down and mark 1 inch. Now measure and mark 1/2 inch on either side of the top center mark. Draw 2 diagonal lines from each 1/2 inch mark down to the 1 inch center mark, forming a V. For reference, check out the 2 blocks in the foreground. Clamp your work to the table and cut out the V's on each 6-inch piece using a jigsaw or a handsaw. Grab an elastic hairband and 2 pens or pencils. Put one pen in the V with the hairband around it. Using the other pen, pull straight down under slight tension and make a mark. Measure this mark to the bottom of the V and use it to mark the same distance on all the 6-inch pieces. Mine worked out to be about 2 inches. Using your drill and an appropriate size bit for the L hooks, drill pilot holes on each mark. Take an L hook and screw it into the pilot hole so the threads are concealed and the hook is pointed downward. For reference, check out the 2 blocks in the foreground. Take a 4-inch long piece and draw a line along a 3.5-inch side and in 3/8 of an inch. Measure in an inch from each side and mark it on the line for pilot holes. Do the same thing using a center line on the leftover 10-inch piece as shown. Using your drill and a 1/8 drill bit, make pilot holes on each of the 2 marks you made on each piece. You'll want to countersink each of these holes. I just touched them with a 5/16 inch bit. Attach the 6-inch support pieces to the 2 4-inch and the 1 10-inch base pieces using the wood glue and the drywall screws. Taking 2 of the 7-inch 1x2 pieces, make a center line along the length of each piece. Make marks and drill on this line 1.5 inches and 2 3/4 inches from each end for each piece. These are pilot holes, so again I'm using the 1/8 inch drill bit. And countersink each pilot hole. Using the pilot holes in the 7-inch piece as a template, drill the 36-inch piece with a 1/16 inch bit and fasten with drywall screws. Repeat the process at the other end of the same 1x3 using the other pre-drilled 7-inch piece. Place the second 1x3 parallel to the other 1x3. Space them about 5/16 of an inch apart. I use the squared part of a carriage bolt as a spacer at each end. Screw this in place using drywall screws. I measured and cut 2 4-inch pieces from the 15-inch 1x2 block. These were fastened together with wood glue and a couple of 2.5-inch deck screws. The C-clamp is used just to hold everything in place until the deck screws are installed. Draw a line 3/8 of an inch from the long edge of your new block. Measure in 1/2 an inch and 1 inch along this line from a short edge, drilling with a 1/8 bit and countersinking these marks. Using drywall screws and wood glue, fasten the remaining 7-inch piece of 1x2 in a vertical fashion to your 4x3 base. Make a mark on the center line of the upright, about an inch down from the top. Drill through the upright on this mark using a 5/16 drill bit. Using a 1/4 inch drill bit, drill a hole 2.5 inches from the end and 3/4 of an inch in from the edge of the base. Countersink this hole using a drill bit that is just large enough to snugly fit one of the 1/4 inch nuts flush to the surface. Jam 2/4 inch nuts together at the midpoint of the 1/4 by 2.5 inch bolt. Secure this in a bench vise on the flats of the nuts. Cut the head off the bolt. Turn the base over and draw a line 1/2 inch from the edge opposite the upright. Make 2 evenly spaced marks on this line. Using a 1/8 drill bit, drill on these 2 marks. Measure and mark 18 inches from one end and on the bottom of one of the 36-inch 1x3 boards. Extend this mark across the width of the board. Make an intersecting line on the 18-inch mark, 1 inch from the edge. Put some wood glue along the top edge of the upright base as shown. Turn it over, line it up with the center line of the base on the 18-inch mark and the edge of the base along the 1-inch mark. Using 2 drywall screws, fasten it in place. Take your 2-part epoxy and mix a small amount, less than a teaspoon. Flip the jig over and put a piece of tape over the hole you made in the base so the glue doesn't drip through. With the jig back in the upright position, take the epoxy you mixed and fill the hole in the base. Take the 1/4 inch bolt from which you cut the head and one of the 1/4 inch nuts. With the nut threaded on the very end, use the bolt to push the nut into the countersunk hole. Give it a tap with a small hammer if it helps. Also, give it a couple turns to get the glue into the threads. To complete the thread spindle, drop one of the 1/4-inch fender washers over the bolt. Take your small eye screw and screw it in place directly centered and about 5/8 of an inch away from the upright. Use a screwdriver to orient it toward you. Draw a center line along the length of one of the base supports. Drill a pilot hole for the wood screw where the center line intersects with the line for the drywall screws. Screw in the wood screw until only the shank is exposed. Repeat the same process for the other rod support. Now, take your Dremel tool with a cutoff wheel or a hacksaw and cut the heads off of both wood screws. Using a 5/16 inch drill bit, make a hole on the center line you use for the wood screw 3/4 of an inch from the front edge. Install the rod supports onto the jig by first feeding a carriage bolt up through the slot, seating the square shank into the slot. Slide the 5/16 inch hole in the rod support base over the carriage bolt while ensuring the support guide drops into the slot as well. Drop the fender washer onto the bolt, followed by the wing nut. When you loosen the wing nut, everything should slide easily in the slot. Tighten the wing nut when the desired position has been reached. Assembling the thread tensioner. This is all the hardware you'll need. A 1/4 inch coarse thread bolt 2.5 inches long with a 1 1/2 inch shank. 5 1/4 inch flat washers with a 5/8 inch OD. A plastic collar and spring from a Moen number M3811 faucet repair kit. The kit comes with 2 of each, but you'll only need 1 of each. 2 countersunk 1/4 inch washers. 2 1/4 inch rubber washers. And lastly, a 1/4 inch coarse thread wing nut. All of these items are available at your local hardware store. Here's how the tensioner device goes together. Take the bolt and slide on the collar and 2 flat washers. The 2 countersunk washers are next, with their concave sides facing each other. Next, another flat washer. Now, the spring, followed by another flat washer. At this point, push the bolt through the 5/16 inch hole that you drilled in the top of the upright. Slide on the last flat washer, followed by the 2 rubber washers. Lastly, spin the wing nut on to hold everything in place. And that's it for the thread tensioning assembly. Use some scrap 3/4 inch lumber to double up the base height of the standalone rod support so it's level with those of the main jig. A barbecue rotisserie motor can also be added to this support to convert the jig into a rod dryer. And that's it. Now you're ready to start wrapping your own custom built fishing rods. The Thames River Anglers Association is a Canadian charitable organization. While most of its members share angling as a common interest, the TRAA is actually an active grassroots Environmental Club. Go to our website, anglers.org, for more information. If you fish, join and support your local grassroots organizations, like the Thames River Anglers Association.